Aman and Harish, you can finish up your talks, and at the end of the talks, if there's a questions, my colleague will just put it up for you in the chat box.
Sure.
I think we are live now.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and all the audience who have joined in today. It's been a pleasure to have you with us, and we wish you all a very happy new year and a good start of the year. We really hope this 2021 brings us all good things to all of us in all the possible ways, be it on the professional or personal front, in all the areas we excel. And of course, we all keep safe and healthy. So with this wishes, I welcome you all on behalf of FICCI for an important initiative, which is a talk which we are organizing on universal acceptance, a key word which would have a significance a lot, especially for a country like India. And I'm sure the speakers today would obviously enlighten you with their thoughts on this subject, which will help you understand it better. So we are going to talk about UA, its implementation and the benefits. Before I go on and hand over the floor to the other speakers, I'll just like to mention that we all know that we all are the proud citizens of this country, India, which is a very diverse nation in terms of its cultural diversity and in terms of its lingual diversity. So if we talk about just the official thing, that we have more than 22 official languages which are there, and more than, I would say, 1,500, 1,600 dialects, and there is a change of a language that every, I would say, 1 kilometer of a distance in India. So that's what we are all known as. So keeping that diversity in mind, and also realizing the importance of digital, like we know that this pandemic has taught one important thing, that digital is one of the key pillars for our survival, be it on I would say taking up as your future thing, or be it something which you have to implement it in your day-to-day lives to survive, starting from a smallest thing, like if you want to go for shopping, or you want to studying, or you want to enlighten yourself with the current news. So digital comes in a big way. And one of the main deterrents for the people who are not well versed with English happens to be that the availability of the content is there, but it's not available in the language in which they want it. And similarly, it happens with the businesses, that if they want to reach out to the audience actually who would want to be their customers, but they're unable to do so because the content available over the internet for them to access is not in their own language, and it's not easily accessible to everybody. So if we talk about, so we have a big ecosystem. There are various players who are working on it. There are content developers, and we know that there is a big demand within the country. In fact, if we talk about the numbers, there's 9 out of the 10 new new internet users would be the Indic internet users. And in terms of the volumes, it would be like we expected to be around more than 500 million new Indic internet users coming up in next 1 or 2 years. And we have a CAGR of 18%, the rate which Indian language internet users are expected to grow. And this will account for almost 75% of India's internet user base. So we are talking about that numbers, which is going to be in future and also in making, I would say. And we, as part of the whole fraternity, can be the contributors to the same. We know that today we are very special, thanks to all the audience, including the academic fraternity who have joined in. I know there are many students as well who have joined in and who would be our next generation, I would say, entrepreneurs, and who would be taking up things which will make our country proud. So we thought that while you would be working on the various areas of your interest, UA would be something which might be something which can come as an added benefit to you, because UA is something which makes internet truly multilingual and digitally inclusive. And that is something which is a highly important point. And as FICCI, which is oldest apex chamber body of India, we have collaborated with ICANN, a non-profit organization, but of course working on this area for long. And we are very thankful with ICANN to initiate the India local chapter of UA. FICCI-ILIA, which is the Indian Language Internet Alliance, is privileged to run that chapter along with ICANN, and with the support of the whole community. There's lots of support from the members which we have received, which has made us come to this level. And when we talked about, we have been having a discussion at various parameters with the industry or the government, and then we thought we cannot move ahead without getting the academia fraternity involved in a total sense. So here we are to present you a tech talk now on a UA and implementation benefits. This is first of a series, and we would be having more tech talks for you all, so that there's a continuity of the subject which is maintained, and you can obviously get further involved with us. In fact, there would be various technical workshops. So anybody and whosoever gets interested from this talk and would like to join us, please share those his or her interest with our with my colleagues, and we will be happy to invite you further in our discussions on the similar area. So, like I said, we are building a community. We would be working for the cause of UA, and we are doing that efforts, and it cannot be completed without your support. So do join us in this momentum and in this revolution, and we really hope that India really achieving a true digital revolution. So we have been focusing on the various aspects currently on the UA during the discussions, but this talk will more talk primarily about how, why, and why it is important for the people who are right now currently listening to us. So with these words, I now request, I would be introducing each and every speaker as and when we go through the flow of the program. I'm sure all of you must have received the program, but now I invite Mr. Samiran Gupta, who is a head of India ICANN. Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for sparing your time, and thank you for the everlasting support we receive it from ICANN, and with the help of which FICCI-ILIA has been able to take this initiative with the support of our members. So we request Mr. Gupta to kindly deliver his opening remarks. Over to you, Mr. Gupta.
Thank you, Sarika, and thank you, FICCI-ILIA, for being our partners in this endeavor. So before I go any further, let me just very briefly give you an idea of what ICANN does. So we are the organization which helps connect names and numbers, or the domain name system, to which brings you the internet on your laptops or on your phones or whichever device that you may be using. We are a non-profit organization, and but we work with partners from all over the world in terms of registries, registrars, and of course special initiatives such as the Universal Acceptance steering group that we have. So, what is universal acceptance? So, universal acceptance is really to make sure that different kinds of scripts which are used on the internet are actually rendered and in the true form that they were sent. So, in other words, if you actually send an email to somebody in Hindi, and will that email ID open on somebody else's browser is the kind of challenges that universal acceptance tries to solve. I will not get into the more details about all these challenges because we have experts with us today to talk about it. But let me say a couple of words from the perspective of our country. As Sarika ji rightly pointed out, we are a very diverse, culturally diverse nation. Just to start with, we have 22 official languages. That in itself is a challenge and a tremendous opportunity. And I would want to say that opportunity lives and resides with us all the time. And even as the nation and the world is battling the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, there are opportunities to get the messaging out. For example, on the on COVID itself, or the vaccine, or whatever, in the 22 official languages. There could be mail servers that could actually handle those languages. So is that really possible, or do we always need to use the internet in English? That, my friends, is something that the panel of experts that we have today will talk to you about. And joining us later will be a couple of universal acceptance ambassadors in India. So please, stay with us and enjoy this process. And as Sarika also mentioned, look, if there is any interest on your part to join the endeavor that FICCI-ILIA is leading in India, please do reach out to them. And separate from that, I'll be very happy to take questions about ICANN as and when they're raised. Thank you so much. With that, I hand it back to Sarika ji. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta, and as I mentioned, thank you to ICANN for supporting this initiative. Without which it would have not been easy and possible for us. For the benefit of the people who are joining in, the details of various things related to USD is also available on usd.tech. I'm sure there are veterans in the program who would further mention and talk about various things and the things which have been already done. In fact, we have a chairman of a UASG group who has joined us today globally, so he's available with us. So he will be further giving you details about it. But that's something I just want that the audience can look into it, and that would be helpful for them to understand it better. So with this, now I request our next speaker, who is Dr. Ajay Data. He's a co-chairman of FICCI ICT and Digital Economy Committee, and of course, the chairman of the UASG, which is Universal Acceptance Steering Group, ICANN. Dr. Data, we are very privileged to have your presence. I'm sure with your learned experience and the things which you have been doing it around this area, it's very, very important. And of course, your company has made us feel proud with the products and things which the company has created, which goes well with the Honorable Prime Minister's campaign, Vocal for Local. So that is something which is we are very thankful to you for the same. So over to you, Dr. Data, to hear your thoughts, to enlighten us, and of course the audience with the special area of ICANN, UA. So over to you.
Good morning, Sarika ji. Good morning, everyone present here. Samiran set at a very right context here related to the opportunities, and we have been talking about this opportunity is a very important area of universal acceptance. What is universal acceptance? If we go back in the past, I'm just setting the opportunity much more bigger canvas. We go around 30 years before when the .com, .net top level domain names got registered. You would imagine that there was no internet. There was no mobile phone. There was no Wi-Fi. There was no broadband. There were not enough web servers. Some research was happening and somebody was thinking about registering a .com top level domain name. I will not go in 30 years of history. You can imagine, to me, the biggest invention of last 100 years, if I call it, is internet. The most impactful one, which has almost impacted every class of person in the world. Everyone, directly or indirectly. What resides in future is the next level of wave of next internet. What is that internet? That internet is for rest 70-80% of the people who do not speak English, do not consume data in English, do not consume any other content other than their regional or personal language. The key here is who is going to do it? We have to do it. Opportunities is not a man or a woman who walks in your office or a room and serves you on a platter. We have to grab them. They are all around and see that what we can do, what we can deliver, and what we can make a difference in mankind's life. We have been doing our bit, and so has the many companies. Nobody if you see, no, we never asked that we need a Facebook or we need a Google or we need an iPhone. We never asked. Some people thought that this is something which is required, which will make a change, an impactful movement in people's life, and it has impacted. Similar situation is on linguistic internet. We are already crossing more than 50% internet content, and mostly on video on a regional language. We are not having enough content because we do not have IDNs in action, we do not have EAIs in action, and we do not have the proper acceptance of the EAIs available in the market. NICSI, I must share that organization with all of you, is a registry in India which provides .in and all the IDNs and .bharat in all the official languages. They have been working very hard to put it On 26th of January, they announced completely free registrations of domain name to promote. A lot of people registers, a lot of people who are individually needing a domain name or wanted to experience them registered. And this is the moment for everyone to experience and explore the IDN and EAI himself at no cost. With few minutes of devotion on a website, you will get both the things and you can just experience them together. This is about supply side. But Nixie can do it. We can do it. Even other organizations can do it. UASG can also bring it. Is there a demand? Is there a valid use of those email addresses? That is where the entire organization called UASG comes into picture. So let me give you an example. I registered my email ID. My email ID is ajay@data.bharat. And we have our own Indian short message blogging KOO, which is absolutely replica of Twitter, supported by many large celebrities here. Very nice product. I tried to subscribe with my email ID. I could not. I contacted the founder. It is yesterday. If you will follow my tweets, you will know that. And he promised me he will make the changes. Now, just imagine that if I have an email ID and I do not have a reach to a company who will listen to me and solve this problem, I can't use that email ID to the most effective way. Can I subscribe to the PM newsletter? No. Can I subscribe can I buy a railway ticket? No. The question is, that is where all of us have to work together, that my email address or your email address in a language is accepted. Now the bigger opportunity. There is a large force, at least 70% of the people in the whole world. In India, it is more, who are going to be ready with their native language email addresses and domain names. They are the e-commerce customer. They are customer for everything, who will transact, who will consume your content. That is the large opportunity. Just imagine that whatever internet or ecosystem of startups and funding is for 20%, now imagine that another 80% gets opened up. Where the country will be, where we all will be, we are suddenly have large number of customers available. That's a large opportunity. UASG as a organization supports almost every organization who is interested to become UA ready, interested to solve that bug. They have it. To solve that bug, first they have to understand and realize that they have a bug. We have ambassadors. You have these people sitting, Aman and Harish, both are here in front of you on the screen. They are the ambassadors here. You can reach out to them. They will guide, help. There are UA ambassadors here, right here in India. And one more person is Sushanto in Calcutta. We are trying to do our bit so that we can support the organizations and make them globally ready. When you become UA ready, you just don't serve the India, you are ready for global market. Another big opportunity for tech people who are there or listening to me is you are adding a capability to consult and design our applications which are UA ready, and you can charge more because not everybody knows about it right now. So when you are designing an application, do you want to design an application which has a bug, which cannot accept every email address, or do you want to charge to the person who is getting the application, make a UA ready, which is ready for all kind of email addresses in the world? You will have a little bit more money to charge it. And then you have a little bit more customers for him to deliver better services to him, no rejections. That is the whole opportunity cycle which is available here. The key here is we have to do both the things together. There is a supply. Supply is not a problem at all now. Do not worry about supply. There is enough technologies. There are enough resources. IDNs are available. EIs are available. Companies like Google, Microsoft, and Apple has come into the ecosystem to support the transactions of the email addresses. There is no problem in that. You can just communicate with the whole world almost in this ecosystem. Now the key here is that everybody should be ready and call themselves UA ready so that they accept all domain names or all email addresses equally. That's all from my side. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And I believe that we will be able to make a huge difference to bring in next billion people online. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Data. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you for talking about the history and why and how this is going to be highly important and how the whole ecosystem is working on. So, thank you for sharing those thoughts. It's really helpful. I'm sure the audience would have learned something about that, how the TLD thing started up and how we are moving forward now. So, thank you for your thoughts. And in any case, the speakers are available for the audience. If there are any questions, feel free to write in the chat box and we'll be happy to take it after the presentations and the discussions are over. Like Dr. Data mentioned, there is a full ecosystem which is working on this. FICCI-ILIA is the partner with ICANN. We are leading this initiative with a community-based program, and we have our ambassadors in India, like Dr. Data has mentioned. We are really privileged and happy that two of them have joined us today, who would be sharing their thoughts subsequently during the program. And the third one, and there is a person called Mr. Shushanto Sinha. He's based in Calcutta, and we have been doing various activities together with the US ambassador. So it's a USG ambassadors along with FICCI-ILIA. We take up this initiative, but what we need is support from you also, that you implement it in your real time, and of course you learn it and join hands with us for this community. So with this, now I invite our next speaker, who is Mr. Aman Masjid. He's a program manager, Redis Registry, and a UA ambassador, UASG. Thank you, Aman, for sparing your time for us and for joining us today. We look forward to hear you on the universal acceptance overview and what you feel the audience should know about UA and why it is important for us. Over to you, Aman.
Thank you very much, Sarika ji, and welcome everyone. This has been a good start to this session. I think Dr. Data and Samiran ji have actually set the right context over here as to how universal acceptance is going to create a huge impact on the next wave of internet users, as you may call it. Now, we we have internet, like you and I, we basically use the internet, but most of the internet that we use or we see or we interact is in English language, or let's say the Latin script, as you may call it, which kind of caters to only a certain section of the population. But bulk of the population that speaks in regional language, and then there are regional scripts. And I think India is basically the hub of all languages. I mean, let's call it like, it's the hub, it's the cradle of civilization. Let's understand that. And from that, we have got like so many languages coming in within India, with 22 official languages, as Dr. Data pointed out. It just creates this responsibility. I would agree with Dr. Data at one end that it's an opportunity, but more so over, it's the responsibility of us, like our responsibility to bring in and make the internet available to these individuals who do not speak English. If we can see the gaps, it's our responsibility to fix the gaps, or do whatever we can basically to ensure that that one individual who speaks a certain language does not remain isolated from the benefits of an internet or a connected internet, or could not use the services. So with that in mind and the context set up, I would like to, I've just created like a small deck on introducing what universal acceptance is and how universal acceptance works. So without further ado, just give me a moment. I'll just start sharing my screen. All right. So just share this. And I hope you guys can see my screen. Can somebody give me a confirmation?
Yes, Aman, it's visible.
All right. Thank you. So what is UA in a nutshell? All right. It's exactly, you can describe it in two lines. It's like people from around the world can effectively use any domain name or any email address in any application for their personal or business use. All right. The moment you start thinking about it, the moment you start thinking about the power behind this statement, we basically can think the application aspect around how this can actually create a ripple effect on all the existing technologies, on all the existing applications and softwares out there. All right. So imagine you could register any domain name in any language, or you can have an email address and or in any language, and you basically go ahead and are able to access existing applications and existing software without any hindrances. And basically, any new developments that happen in technology, your email addresses and domain names will work as smoothly as any other domain name or email address on the system. Now, like I said, the internet evolved basically. All right. First, it was the .coms, the .net, org, info. All right. Then, basically, in 2000, in early 2000, in 2013, new GTLDs came into picture, where suddenly there was like more than 1,000 new TLDs came up. All right. But was the internet system or the legacy platforms ready to accept that? All right. Now, what do you mean by accept? I'll cover later on. I'll simplify what acceptance actually means. But basically, there were new TLDs out there, and new opportunities, and even IDN based TLDs were available. All right. Now, obviously, it's a huge, it lays the groundwork for people to make the changes that are required to ensure that the consumers of these new TLDs or these new email addresses are reaping the benefits of their existing platform. So what has changed? More top level domain names are here. There are no longer just 2 or 3 character domain names, no longer just ASCII domain names. All right. List of TLDs is no longer static. All right. It keeps on changing. Which means that if today somebody needs to validate an existing TLD, they don't need to just look at a static page that they have composed. They need to refer to a dynamic list, that is uploaded either on GitHub or probably on IANA or wherever, they can figure those list of domain names are. Mailboxes are also no longer just English based, ASCII based. So, and like we said, it doesn't work altogether. If you can see, a new GTLD, something called as organic, might not resolve in a browser. All right. If it's resolving in a browser, all right, and it becomes like a browser issue. If it resolves in a browser, or you have just solved one problem, that the browser is now resolving it. But what about the website that you go into? Supposing you go to your local bank website and you try to sign up with your new email address, or a Hindi email address. Do you think that that particular account is going to accept it, or that bank software application that is there is basically failing validations of accepting these new TLDs? So that again is becomes a UA issue. So you need to basically look at every feature set on every website or application or software that is out there, and see if it is going through a proper, if the validation is going through correctly and is being accepted and being available for the person who owns these TLDs, or owns these domain names or email addresses. The role of universal acceptance over here is to make these guys UA ready. All right. Universal acceptance is like, wherever we see the gaps, we report these gaps to them, we point them out, we then point them, here is the resource from where you can go ahead and fix this, and these are the best practices on becoming UA ready. So the role of universal acceptance is to identify and basically develop solutions, and basically go into the remedial procedures and work with the companies, or evangelize the idea, or point them to the resources that can help them to fix the gaps that they have on their existing platform. As you know, the anatomy of an email address, all right, you have the before at and after at. All right, imagine your email address looking something like this, which is also a valid email address. All right, now evolving from the legacy email addresses in English and evolving to the internationalized email addresses. That's the evolution we want in the whole email ecosystem also. All right. Um, and like we said, like, there's the username, the part, username could be anything. All right. It is not necessary. It has to just be ASCII, or it can be in Unicode also, or the top level domain name. It does not necessarily mean that it has to be in English. It could be in Unicode. All right. Does not restricted by 2 to 63 just a bunch of characters. It can go up. It can go up to certain characters, which is not predefined. All right. The only validation right now, that the consistent thing in an email address remains, is the @sign. All right. There's no replacement for an @sign at the moment. All right. But that's a label that we do require to identify what's the prefix and what's the domain name of that particular email address. Now, what are the benefits? Like, some of the benefits that Dr. Data was talking about, and Samiran also pointed out, and Sarika ji also in her introduction said, all right, it's really no joke. Like, we can actually foresee a $9.8 billion annual opportunity if you try to connect these dots or fill these gaps and get the people who don't speak these languages on board. All right. You can get these guys on board to your systems and be able to reap the benefits, and it's a trickle down effect. All right. And I will give you a few case studies. One of the case studies, one of my favorite case studies that I usually talk about in these sessions later on. But I can just it'll just get you to thinking. All right. All those developers or budding entrepreneurs who are actually listening to this, you can actually think about how a minuscule feature change can create a huge impact. All right. Um, like we said, we need to ensure that our systems and the infrastructure is ready to basically bring in the new additional millions of users on the internet and reap the benefits of the internet, like the English speaking users are using today. Um, it will basically help you to connect the next billion internet users. All right. The benefits are right out there. All right. A better user experience. Anybody who's involved in the new GTLD programs or TLD programs, or registrars, registry, hosting providers, anybody who is involved in bringing someone's online presence or creating someone's online presence will be able to deliver a better experience to their customers, will be able to connect with those customers in a more, uh, I wouldn't say personal level, but in a better, the overall user experience for them will be better if, the language barriers are broken. So it always helps. Um, one of my friends were actually talking about the other day is like, if you want to close a deal, a big deal, um, if you have connected over language, more than 20-30% of your work is done if you've connected or bonded over someone over their local language. And we saw this happen, transpire in real estate and various other industries where, doors of opportunities kind of open up when the interaction is more local. Make people comfortable you when your systems are ready to do so, or how you communicate. Now, what do you want to bother? All right, you're just allowing people to use their preferred identity. You are reducing any kind of support costs. You are building that cultural connection with them. All right. And I would actually implore everybody to go to this white paper by Mason. All right, Analysis Mason. And they've completely done a study on what are the socio-economic benefits of becoming UA ready. So if you can see the link on the website, you are actually encouraged to go and read this particular white paper. some of the organizations that have joined up with and engaged in UA activities are Microsoft, Google, who are leading the charge, and as far as email address internationalization is concerned. Obviously, ICANN is the start of all of these opportunities. Without the new GTLD program, this wouldn't have happened. And basically, ICANN running the Universal Acceptance Steering Group, a dedicated group effort, an initiative by ICANN, where we all are now revolving around and working towards. There are registries like Affiliates, Radix. I'm part of Radix, who's involved in testing of gaps in websites and software applications. And I and there's a lot of work being done over there, and basically cross intelligence that can be shared and leveraged over here. What's really ahead is that we've already documented several resources, our studies, our working papers, everything is available on uasg.tech. There are a lot of resources for developers, entrepreneurs already over there. We've got a social media handle also over here, where we talk about our latest developments and what's really happening in this area. Now, some of the local initiatives, like we've spoken about, how FICCI is spearheading the local initiatives in India. They've done numerous talks and sessions on, ranging from topics around importance of language computing, UA awareness, like this session. There are technical workshops that happen, sessions on, the role of UA on Indic internet. So these are some really Indian, good discussions to be plugged into. Now, recent exciting development, again, like Dr. Data pointed out, Nixie is taking like great strides in pushing this initiative. And we still have one more day to go. If you have not got your .bharat in your preferred 22 languages, you can still go ahead and register a free domain name for yourself. It's there. The offer is there till tomorrow, 31st January. It's on their website, Nixie's website. You can just go ahead, use a local domain name, and it's a matter of pride to have one of yourself. And basically, if there are not many takers over there, you might just get a prefix of your own choice. So imagine having that for yourself and reserving it. XGen, again, one of Dr. Data's initiative, if I'm not mistaken, is like a fully compliant email service provider on UA. I mean, like their email servers basically accept any kind of internationalized domain name, and you can actually use that as and experience how an email in local language will look like. All right, we're just not talking about the body of the email. We'll actually talking about the from email ID, who you're going to send it to, and experience the whole thing. All USG local initiatives that we have done in 2020 are linked over here. There are, there are groups across the world. There are groups in Southeast Asia and Africa, or there are people in the Americas. So there are local initiatives happening over there, and people are working tirelessly towards addressing these gaps and pushing the agenda of having a local universal acceptance. So, like I said, better UA equal to better user experience. We've already discussed that. And there are, even in, let's say, our website usg.tech, you can actually go ahead and test. If you are an entrepreneur who's basically got your own domain name, you've got your own web hosting services somewhere, you can actually test your email address for email address internationalization or UA readiness on uasg.tech. Test your email. There's an option over there. You can definitely go ahead and check that out. Now, this is one slide that I would want to basically take some time on and make sure that you guys think about it. What really does mean acceptance? All right, it just imagine a user interface that you have developed. All right, is that user interface accepting an email address? That means, first of all, is it even is it even actually resolving? Once you type it, is it even typing an acceptance? Then basically your validation screens that go in, your validation scripts, is it passing through the validations, or is it coughing up an error like, hey, you know what, this is not a valid email ID, or this is not a valid URL that you have entered? Or is the feature breaking down, or is there a problem in uh, you know uh, just not moving ahead, and like just breaks that user's flow in whatever interaction that they need to have with the image. Now, the then the storing of the data, is the data that you have entered in whatever script, the backend, is it being stored properly, is it being processed properly? If it not processed properly, is it coughing up a right error message? You really don't know, and how you are basically going to display that data. So UA readiness can be consolidated into these 5 important verbs. If you've basically addressed or even thought about all of this, you are already working towards UA readiness. So that's the key mantra that you need to keep in mind when you're addressing UA issues. Just a brief about UASG. All right, USG was founded in 2015, promoting all initiatives around universal acceptance. There are a lot of people who are part of this steering group, right from companies to private organizations, to experts, to government agencies, community groups. All of them are part of UASG trying to resolve the issue at hand, the or address the challenge of universal acceptance, let's call it that way. Now, for enabling universal acceptance, we've got like kits available on our website for developers and CIOs and influencers on how they can basically look into promoting universal acceptance. If they are an implementer, there are libraries and files available for them, read up articles, and how they can use these tools to basically go ahead and retrospect on their applications that they have right now, or any budding developer that's out there who's basically going to go ahead and probably create a new framework of designing. Like Dr. Data said, that hey, you know what, when you're designing a software, do it completely and ensure that you are giving the company for whom you're building a software or an application that is ready to accept the new wave of internet users too. Now, before I go into inventory and material, I had actually pointed out a case study that I talk about. All right, and this I'm sure that most of you have used Instagram. All right, and there are certain features that Instagram comes up with. Now, in our testing, while we were testing Instagram for UA readiness, all right, this was internally an exercise that we had taken up. We noticed that one of our influencers who was using one of our TLDs was trying to use the swipe up feature. I don't know if you have seen that in the story mode. When you add a story into Instagram, there is something called as you add a URL, and it's like swipe up to go to that particular URL. That one feature out of everywhere, that one feature was broken. It was not accepting new TLDs. All right. It wasn't automatically hyperlinking or even going or even accepting. So what did that essentially mean? Imagine an influencer who's got millions of followers. All right. The millions of followers lost the opportunity to go on that particular website. All right. And basically look at what the influencer was talking about. This could potentially have led to sales. All right. This could have potentially led to some useful information being shared by the influencers. This could have probably been, from a new GTLD perspective, we are a new TLD provider. We lost potentially millions of people having their eyeballs on a new TLD, which could be a dot store or a dot tech or dot online. But as someone who would probably be uh, you know benefited out of this particular one swipe up feature where millions of eyeballs would have resulted in either potential sales or advertisement or awareness. So once so that one particular feature, we bought it up with UASG, and then we also pursued internally with Instagram. We also pursued with through that one particular influencer reaching out to Instagram, and basically that feature got fixed. So you can make an impact when you basically create enough demand that, hey, you know what, this is the impact. And when you make people aware that if your feature is UA ready, all right, this is the trickle down effect that's going to actually happen, all right. And you potentially don't even realize what the ripple effect is going to be with just one small feature which is not UA ready. This is the inventory material that we have. We've got fact sheets, white paper, letters, studies, everything. Anybody who's interested in getting into universal acceptance and reading up, please go ahead, and I encourage you guys to go into the inventory material that we have on UASG website, and you guys can go ahead and study that. Moving forward, these are a few fun things that you could do. Like I said, you can test your email. You can, install the Data Mail app by Dr. Data and use an internationalized email address. You can go through the guides, or you can just join and start being involved in the various discussions that we have in our mailing groups. All right, we've got technical measurement related working groups where you can lend your expertise, or if you want to take up an initiative within your society or your community to evangelize this idea, please do look us up, and we can help you with the content that you're seeking. But all in all, there is a lot of work to be done, and I think we are on the right track, and just requires enough persistence and awareness. And I think we will be in a good position to bring in the next wave of internet users. Thank you. So back to you, Sarika ji.
Thank you, Aman, for building up the story. I think it was very interesting. You talked about the benefits the UA gets in, and of course, talking about the efforts as a whole community, a whole ecosystem we are working on. The entities which are various entities which are involved, the importance of UA, and of course, ending up before the inventory on the real-time case study which you guys have experienced with. So that is something which is encouraging. I'm sure the Instagram studio which you talked about is really, I would say, a learning experience for all of us, and I'm sure the audience would have also benefited from it, because it's something which you as a company you guys have worked on it. So that is something which is really nice to know about it. So thank you, Aman, for sharing your thoughts and being part of the whole program which we are running in. And I'm sure we will be always staying together, connected to work on this initiative together. So with this, now we move on to our next presenter. He is Mr. Harish Chaudhary, who is a technology analyst from Ministry of Electronics and IT, IGSIM, and a UA ambassador for UASG. Mr. Harish Chaudhary will talk about the UA and its implementation and its benefit. He will talk about a little technical know-how, how it needs to be done. Amanda did mention about the 5 important areas which we need to keep in mind, and I'm sure Mr. Chaudhary will take that thing in further details during his presentation. So thank you, Mr. Chaudhary, for joining in here. And after Mr. Aman Masjid, we look forward to hear you. So over to you, Mr. Chaudhary.
Thank you, Sarika ji. Um, Thank you, Mr. Data. Thank you, Aman, as well as I will also thank Samiran ji, you know, uh, because they have actually explained universal acceptance in detail, and really, give me a very, basically, I would be
Mr.
covering
Chaudhary, we lost you in between.
the benefits of it and how one can utilize the benefits of universal acceptance. So I would be sharing my presentation for the benefit of the audience, and I hope this presentation is visible. So,
Yes, it's visible.
okay, thank you. So basically, what is universal acceptance? It is very well explained by the esteemed speakers. I would be covering some technical details and how we can achieve all those 5 important parameters to make one system UA ready. I will also, explain some benefits, and some of the benefits are already, explained by Mr. Aman. However, I would be giving a new perspective to it. So basically, there are key fundamental aspects to the universal acceptance, uh, which is Unicode, internationalized domain names. Uh, uh, so basically, one has to understand what is the importance of these things while implementation of universal acceptance. So basically, we have the glyphs, and we encode those glyphs into the code points. And for that, uh, we have to see that these glyphs should be normalized. So these are the prerequisite for setting up one of the important identifier of universal acceptance, which is email address internationalization. So email address internationalization is kind of very important because in general term, email address internationalization means emails in local languages. So basically, while we have the domains, which is, you know, you know, when we implement universal acceptance, we have the domain names in local languages, and to create the identities on them, we also have email IDs on local languages. So in technical term, we call email ID in local languages as email address internationalization. And while uh, we are developing the solution for the email address internationalization to implement UA, then there are some prerequisite. So one of the prerequisite for setting up of email address internationalization is to encode the glyphs into the code points and the process of normalization. So the process of your normalization is very important, because you can see that we have a character E, which could be E with a sign above it, which could be encoded in 2 ways. One is U plus 00 E8, and another one is U plus 0065 plus U plus 0300. So these encoding should be normalized, which is very important while implementation of EI. So what is normalization? It is the process to ensure that no matter the user type and representation should be the same. So for 2 entries above, normalization form C, which is known as NFC, will generate U plus 00E8 for both of the characters. So this is the first step. Then the second prerequisite for implementation of EAI is support for both representation of IDN labels. IDNs are internationalized domain names. I would be explaining in my next slide after prerequisite in detail what are IDNs and what are different categories of IDN in EAI. But just give a technical background, as because it is a technical talk. So one has to understand the technical terms before going into the uh, general discussions. So the second prerequisite is support both representation of IDN label. There are 2 important representations, U label and A label. So U label, they are generally used in terms of for displaying the characters. So Aman also discussed there are 5 important parameters. One of them is displaying. So U label is used for displaying and comparison, and A label is used for processing. So basically, these are the two important factors. Now, what kind of encoding we should be using while implementation of universal acceptance? So that encoding is UTF-8, Unicode Transformation Format 8-bit. Then one has to understand that this encoding is very important, and it is variable number of bytes for a single code point. ASCII is used as is because it is, backward compatible with, it is compatible with ASCII, and this is the gold standard for carrying Unicode code points in web and protocols. So this is very important. Again, I would be, covering that what is domain names in a very simple term, that domain name is a ordered set of label A.B.C.D, and a top level domain is the rightmost label D in the left to right script, and domain name system is the distributed database, and there are different services associated to it, and we also have multiple DNS records which are very important, and IPv4, there are addresses for the domain names are also, there are DNS record for that. Then we have the IPv6 addresses record. Then we have the resource record for the emails. We have the MX records. So basically you have to see that there is a uniform resource locator, and which is represented in terms of, starting with HTTP, which represent protocol, mail is subdomain, and Google is domain, and .com, which is TLD, top level domain. Then this is very important, for the basic background of while implementation of universal acceptance. Again, internationalized domain names. These domain names, they enable the use of non-ASCII characters for any label of domain name, and not all the label of a domain name may be internationalized. One has to understand that. Then, for example, you can see there is a example.ca in which on the second level there is a cap on A, so it looks like English domain name, but it is not. It is using the Unicode character, and then users uses the IDN version, but the IDN is converted into the ASCII for the DNS resolution. So this example is generally converted into the character, one of the encoded format, which is known as Punicode, which starts with X and dash dash, and it is added as a prefix to identify an internationalized domain name. So this is very important to understand that what are internationalized domain name and what is EAI, because they are one of the main identifiers of universal acceptance. So if I'll tell us a person that how an internationalized domain name is processed, so you can see that when user enter into the browser, for example http colon backward slash example.ca, which is the syntax to enter a domain name, then this browser normalize on the user entry. Then the first process is normalization. Then browser convert this example.ca, which is a internationalized domain name, into an ASCII compatible representation, which is known as Punicode, starting with X and dash dash. So it will, this conversion add X and dash dash in front of the IDN domain name. So it becomes xn dash dash example.xta.ca, which is the ASCII representation of ASCII representation or a label of example.ca. Or if there is also written nixie.bharat in my slide, which is a internationalized domain name in Devanagari script, and when it is processed, its Punicode is also represented in the red color. And then this Punicode value, which is A label, browser calls the DNS to get the IP address of the Punicode, and then browser connect the HTTP server at the received IP address. So this is the simple process for processing of a internationalized domain name. So basically, one has to understand that protocols which are the used in this process, they always use IDNA 2008 standard and do not use the older 2003 version, which is very important. And U label is the Unicode native representation of IDN label. Here, example nixie.bharat. And A label is the Unicode representation of an IDN label, which starts with X and dash dash. So these are the some important prerequisite. I will also, suggest few more of them. One of that, do not use code and libraries that have static list of top level domains, because these top level domains always come and go, and therefore the static list should not be used. We should use the list provided by ina.org, and this list should be used while to check if the TLD is available or not. Then do not use the regex for user input validation for internationalized identifiers, because it would be very difficult to validate the local part of EAI if we'll use the regex. We should be using IDNA 2008 libraries for internationalized domain names. So this is some of the important points one has to remember. So now in technical terms, the UA is about how to appropriately support internationalized identifiers, as well as the short, as well as new and long top level domains. So what are the two important identifiers? Internationalized domain names and EAI. And I am again telling you that the main important steps while implementation of this, the first is normalization, then support for both U label and A label. Always use IDNA 2008 and do not use older version IDNA 2003. And then do not use static list of top level domains, and do not use regex for user input validation. So these are the few important points one has to remember. Now summing up everything, I would say then there are very important categories of domain names and email addresses. I would thank ICANN for providing this slide. I have used one of the important slide from ICANN. Then that which is explaining various categories of domain names and email addresses. So it is now possible to have domain names and email addresses in local languages. So internationalized domain names, that means domain names in local languages, email address internationalization, which I have already explained, and what is UTF-8 format by Unicode used for IDNs and EAI. So these are the important points. So we have some different categories of domain name. For example, newer top level domain names, example.sky, that red color .sky is newer top level domain. Then longer top level domain names Abu Dhabi, and then internationalized domain name. You can see there could be Chinese or Devanagari domain names. You can see nixie.bharat. I have used in my earlier slides. Then we could have different type of internationalized email addresses: sky@idn, utf8@sky, utf8@idn, and utf8@idn, right to left script. So these are the some important permutation and combination one has to understand. So what is EAI? That email address internationalization, that it provide UTF-8 support for mailbox name, which is before @ and domain name after @ Some of the examples are, and one of the example is harish@nixi.bharat, which is in Devanagari script in Hindi, and other examples are also there for better understanding. What is not EAI? That having UTF-8 support in subject lines, address comments, message bodies, because message bodies are always provide support for UTF-8 through MIME types. And use of any character set other than UTF-8 is not email address internationalization. So why I am explaining this? Because UTF-8 is, I can say, while we are implementing EAI, it is the king of encoding, and there are variable lengths, and ASCII characters are still 1 byte. So this is one of the technical representation of UTF-8 encoding, and this is just for reference. So again, this is one of the quiz. Why I have designed this quiz? Because of some students are participating, and academia and different stakeholders. So the question is, applications present the internationalized domain names and email address internationalization to use in the following encoding format. So these are the 5 options, and I know that now you can answer it very well. So answer is, may I ask the audience or anybody? Okay, so answer is UTF-8. I hope I am audible to everybody.
Yes,
Yes,
you are.
Harish, you are.
Okay, thank you. So there are, now I'll move to the mail system component. So there are different mails, system component. A mail software has many components. A package may provide email address internationalization in some components, but but there some components are also not, compliant to universal acceptance rules or universal acceptance. So basically, is a software has several components, some of them compliant or some of them may not be compliant. So we have to see that how to make them compliant. So these are the important, mail system components: MUA, MTA, MSA, which is mail submission agent, MDA, which is mail delivery agent. So these are the different important components of our mail system. So you can say mail user agent, for example, that Gmail or XGen running in a browser, Outlook or Thunderbird. These are some examples of mail user agent. These are we are interacting with every day, interacting with them every day. For example, when you are log into your Gmail account, then you are using a mail user agent by providing username and password. Then we have mail transferring agent, which is very important. This is a server application that receives mail from mail submission agent or from another mail transfer agent. So some example is MTAs are postfix, exim, sendmail, and qmail. So these are important for to receive mail from the mail submission agent. Now we have the mail submission agent, a server program that receives mail from an MUA, checks for any errors and transfer it to the mail transferring agent hosted on the same server. Typically, this function is bundled with the mail transfer agent. And one of the again important agent is mail delivery agent, a software which usually on servers which receives the email from from an MTA and is the final destination of the email. So this is very important. Example is Dovecoat, and which is mainly a POP3 and IMAP server. So these are the some important component which may or may not be compatible or to EAI or to the universal acceptance identifiers. So we have to see that how to make them compatible. So you can see that this is the complete a very simple diagram to understand that how email is going from the sender to the receiver. So you can see that we are sending mail using mail user agent, which is submitted at mail submission agent, and then we have the mail transfer agent, and then mail transfer agent of a sender side is contacting with the mail transfer agent of receiver side, and then it is submitted at mail delivery agent, finally stored at the mailbox, and then delivered to the receiver. So you can see that one of the important protocol here is SMTP, which is present in every part. It is simple mail transfer protocol, and then this SMTP should be UTF-8 enabled. When SMTP is UTF-8 enabled, that means your system is supporting email address internationalization. This is one of the important point. So you can see that this SMTP UTF-8 option is used within the mail transfer protocol, simple mail transfer protocol, to signal the support of EAI by the email server. So if your system is flagging the support for SMTP UTF-8, this means your system supports EAI. Now moving to the next slide, there are also some important protocol changes while implementing EAI support. Then that SMTP, it should be, should have signaling flag for SMTP UTF-8, and all SMTP server in the path must support EAI to successfully deliver the email. Then we have POP and IMAP server. They should also have, signal for the EAI in terms of SMTP UTF-8, but one has to understand that there is also mechanisms available for downgrading, but I am not explaining all the details of downgrading. But while implementing, what one has to understand that downgrading may cause many issues for the users and the system admin to debug issues. So it is advisable to avoid the downgrading mechanism. So how these protocol changes are implemented, that SMTP server announcing the support for EI on the initial greeting by the extending hello message. And then SMTP client connecting to the compliant SMTP server by suggesting or indicating mail SMTP UTF-8 message. Headers also may have UTF-8 content, and email body already supports UTF-8 through the different MIME types. So in POP, we have to use UTF-8 command, and in IMAP we have to enable UTF-8 equal to using accept command. So this is some of the important factors while implementation of email address internationalization. So in a simple term, if everything is, protocol changes are implemented, SMTP UTF-8 enabled in the delivery path, then all the email parties, if they are using SMTP UTF-8 and SMTP UTF-8 is and UTF-8 encoding is enabled, then your mail will be delivered successfully. That means your mail in the local language will be delivered successfully. But even if a single SMTP server in the path does not support EI, then the email is not delivered. So one has to understand that. So while not going, I mean, it's technical, I understand that, but then while not going very much technical, I'm just indicating some important, factors or important, flags one has to enable while EI configuration. Then in the one of the important configuration file, SMTP UTF enable the should be the attribute should be enabled as yes. So these are the some important steps. So now moving to the my next slides, and this is one of the configuration using the mailmate configuration on commercial email client on Mac operating system. And I am just you can go through these slides, and I would be providing these slides to the FICCI, and you can set up this environment, and you can see that while implementation of after implementation of this setup, you are able to send messages from one system to another system successfully. So this is the screenshot of the success email in the local language sent from the client to the one of the sender to the receiver successfully. So case folding is also very important in case of email address internationalization, that we can see that Kevin and Kevin, which are considered as kind of same in the ASCII email implementation, but in case of the email address internationalization, the case folding is typically not done by the server. Then one has to understand that this Kevin and Kevin, which is the written in the Unicode format, and they are different. So we have to pay attention to the case folding. Otherwise, mail would not be delivered to the desired location or the desired inbox. So mail software and services which provide the EI support are the Mailmate, Postfix, and the Courier. And their versions are also there. For the Postfix, the minimum version is 3.0. For the Mailmate on Mac operating system, the minimum version is 1.9.4, and for the Courier, the minimum version is 1.0, and for IMAP, this minimum is 5.0.8. And some of the systems which are not supporting AI, it is as October 2019 are Dovecot, Zimbra, and Mozilla Thunderbird, and services supporting AI is Gmail and Outlook. So one has to also understand that there are some important services uh, which are level 1 compliant, and some of the services are level 2 compliant. So I would be explaining what is level 1 and what is level 2 in EI compliance. So there are three important things that in the level 1 compliant EI system can exchange email with EI addresses. They can receive email from EI addresses. They can send email to an EI address. But what they cannot do, they cannot create mailbox and domain name in UTF-8. So you cannot create or sign up using these services for email addresses or EI addresses. On the other hand, what is level 2 compliance? Level 2 compliance is that one system is level 1 compliant, plus it can create EAI addresses. So this is very important. In if some system is level 2 compliant, they can create EAI addresses, and you can create your EAI address in India thanks to XGen Plus. You can go to their site and you can create your EAI addresses. So in level 2, they can receive email from an EAI address, receive emails or deliver email to an EAI address, as well as they can create mailbox and domain names in UTF-8. So these are the two important levels of email address internationalization. So Gmail is level 1 compliant, and XGen is level 2 compliant in there when they can, in which you can create your email addresses. However, there are also important results published by Universal Acceptance Steering Group regarding all the email services provider that if they are level 1 compliant or level 2 compliant, or what component is level 1 compliant or what component is level 2 compliant. So you can also access this report at www.usg.tech. So finally, what is the conclusion of after these technical details? That AI is essentially supporting UTF-8 local parts of an email addresses, which also means supporting in the headers and also require changes to mail servers and the mail clients. All SMTP servers in the path must be AI enabled to deliver the mail to the destination, and Courier and Postfix are two open source software that supports AI with very limited changes in configuration. In configuration files, one has to be careful to use A labels, U labels, or both depending upon the situation. So these are the some important points one has to remember while implementation of email address internationalization, which is very important, which is one of the important identifier, technical identifier of universal acceptance. So you can go through the details, further details for EI and IDNs on these, domains. So usg.tech, ican.org/UA, and then ican.org/IDN. And there is also a very important document, UASG 028, which is consideration for naming internationalized email boxes. So which is very important for the system administrators while implementation of AI, and they will, it also outlines the consideration for naming internationalized mailbox and helps administrators make good choices when setting their mailbox name policy. So there is a huge scope for the in the Indian market, because there is only 9.7% of email servers are potentially configured to support email addresses in local languages in script. And I'm not while I'm suggesting to all the startups and all the institutions, companies in India that to look into that, because there is a huge opportunity in implementation of multilingual internet. And because universal acceptance is the foundational requirement to realize multilingual internet, because we have 22 official languages in India, and these scheduled 22 scheduled languages, they are launched and they are launched by National Internet Exchange of India, and you can have your domain names in your 22 scheduled languages. You can have email IDs in the 22 scheduled languages. So to connect last mile user in the flagship Digital India program, to enable the entire system so that we can send our emails in local languages, we can use our domains in local languages, we have to fulfill this gap. And this, to fulfill this gap, our new solution has to come in the picture. And you can see that all the big companies like Apple, Microsoft, Google are working towards it. So why not Indian organizations come forward and be the part of this revolution? For example, Apple release of iOS 14 supports sending and receiving emails using non-Latin languages. So these languages are Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Russian, Thai, and Hindi. Google also support level 1 compliance, and they have started in 2014. Microsoft Office 365 did it in 2018, and they also supports EI in their Exchange servers in 2019. So these are the phase 1 compliant. So XGen is also providing email IDs in local languages in India. So other companies could come up with these kind of important solutions to support Indic languages. You can see there is a multilingualism on the internet. There are some current trend. So these are the statistics of 2019. because in 2020 we see that there is too much of pandemic fear. So these stats may be older, but they are really relevant. So Facebook supports more than 100 languages. Google Translate is available for more than 100 languages. And so the translation and content part is not, directly related to the universal acceptance, but I'm saying that how this multilingualism is, trending on current internet. So it will finally, then email address internationalization, then internationalized domain names again add to it to make entire internet multilingual in the true sense. You can see some of the example that Google sees gold in Indian languages. So this is very important for Indian companies to look into that direction, and I think this is the high time, because Digital India 2.0 program actually talk about multilingual internet in a detailed manner. So you can go through the document, it is publicly available. You can also see, according to the Google's estimate, 90% of the countries registered 135,000 publication don't even have a website. So these there is a huge opportunity for these web developers to create these domains on the internationalized domain names and give them internationalized email address. So if you develop some of the solution around the universal acceptance, you can also monetize it, and then Google provides supports in their AdScene program and for the Indian languages too. And there are also certain numbers you can see on my slide that which actually supports queries in Hindi languages. So these are some of the factors which are kind of really relevant to the our Indian stakeholders. So you can see that by 2021, which is I mean now we are in 2021, there will be over 500 million users of Indian languages, while English users will be less than half of the number. This may be achieved, or it is soon going to be achieved, this number of 500 million. But this is huge number for the organizations or Indian startups. So, and this is a huge customer base. So you can see that Google Home and Amazon Alexa, they are again supporting our local languages, especially Hindi. So why I'm suggesting this multilingual trend, that the future is kind of multilingual, and if you develop solution around these language based technologies, then the one solution should be UA compliant. So it will give you an edge to other competitors. So now you can see that most spoken languages in India in each state. Okay, so this is one of the customer base, but you can also see that second most spoken language in each state of India. So you can see that in one state you can have the customer base which belongs to different languages. So that is how you can develop your solutions around it. This is just for the reference, and I think it would be really useful for the marketing people or strategy makers, that how to popularize their products around the language technologies. So Bengali, Marathi, Tamil and Telugu speaking internet users will form 30% of the total Indian language internet user base. So again, this is very important input for the companies who are actually developing the solutions around the multilingual internet. However, one of the unresolved challenges in e-commerce ecosystem and the payment interface, which are still not Indian language friendly, prevent the masses to transact online. I hope the solution are in the process of formation, and soon they will be launched so that people could use the e-commerce or the e-commerce ecosystem and the payment gateways in the local languages. So thanks a lot, and I hope I didn't go too technical, and in case of any question, please feel free to ask. If I'm able to answer right now, uh, uh, I'll try to answer right now, but if not, then I can, mail you later. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary, for this extensive presentation. It did have a good coverage of the technical know-how, talking about the IDNs, AIs, various components about it, repository of the material which can be referred by the people, and of course giving a broader layout about our country with a specification respect to different languages and what all needs can be done. So thank you for that detailing. I think I'm sure it is very helpful for everybody who's listening to it. So, with this audience, we have come to an end of the discussions. I'm not saying end of the program because we'll take up the questions. I know there are a few good questions which have come up by the audience. There are more than 110. I've been informed at the various platforms, so YouTube and the FICCI platform where people are watching this. So, I would like to acknowledge and thank them for being very patient and joining us for this discussion. I assume that the coverage of the tech talk was beneficial to you all. In case if there is some feedback you want us to cover something in future or anything you want us to improve, please feel free to write to us at FICCI-ILIA@FICCI.com, and that's very your feedback really helps us a lot. It helps us to even plan out our next activities in accordance to the same. So, with this, we'd like to thank the panelists who have spared their time with us for this discussion today. We'll take up few questions which have come from the audience, and then that shows the involvement of the audience with the kind of depth of the question they are asking. So, one question is, I'll pose it, and then maybe one of you can take it up. I can check, I can point out a name, and if anybody else wants to add any answer to it, please feel free to do so. So the question is, how important is UA readiness for academia, and especially in terms of skilling and reskilling? So, Mr. Gupta, would you like to take that question?
Sure, I can take that question. So I think firstly, it's a great question because UA readiness in academia really to me, has two dimensions. One is actually to be teaching UA readiness and making it, wherever appropriate, of course, whether it's a technical program where, it can be taught, but then also, being able to use programming to create UA readiness. That's on the one side. And on the other side, of course, because as we said earlier, we live in a multilingual and multicultural society. I think if academia actually joins this process and starts creating the tools, it will actually make the process of education that much more interesting and accessible. So yes, to answer the question, it is very important, and it'll be, and I, quite frankly, this is also an area, Sarika ji, that FICCI can, kind of create that momentum, hopefully, as you continue to work on universal acceptance issues.
Sure. So, Mr. Gupta, thank you. And definitely, as FICCI, we will look into it and we'll take it further. We understand that. And as I mentioned, it's a good question which has come in. So, thank you for sharing your thoughts on it. Since we are running really out of the time, so I'll just go to the next question. Audience, if you feel anything which needs to be asked further on this, please feel to write to us. So, this question is, what percent of the internet is UA ready in India? And there is one more question which is associated to this, but I'll just stick on to this question first. Maybe Aman, you would like to add an answer to this, followed by maybe Mr. Chaudhary if he wants to add his thoughts again to it. So over to you, Aman.
So my estimation comes from how the UA readiness is as Harish pointed out in his presentation, um, about 7% are email address email are you know are accepting emails that are UA compliant. The email servers are UA compliant. So it's more indicative. All right, you can't really benchmark it. You can't really quantify the percentage of internet. All right, it's ever expanding, like an expanding universe. So you really can never quantify it. But what you can really quantify is that, okay, there are X email service providers, and so many are basically EA compliant or UA compliant, and it's an indicator, all right, that it's working. Now, in true sense, what you need to know is what is the satisfaction rate of compliance, all right? How would you feel that, all right, fine, it's satisfactory to understand that, hey, you know what, at a certain level, India is UA ready. I think it's personally got to do with the most number of visited sites in India. You got to start with that. And you got to see a percentage of those sites that are email address internet, which are UA compliant, let's say. Um, I know we've done studies, in UASG, global studies and all. So we kind of defined UA readiness in terms of looking into certain features like email acceptance while signing up for a particular service, or let's say filling up a contact form and basically ensuring that the emails have reached our inboxes once we have signed up. So these testing methodologies that we've done have been published on the USG website, and I would say that the test cases that we went through were broadly categorized into six test cases. One being the new GTLDs, new short GTLDs we call them. The one new GTLDs that are less than or equal to 3 characters. For example, .fun is a new GTLD. .uno is a new GTLD. But it's a less than 3 characters. So is that email address or that domain name being accepted in the features of existing websites or not? Similarly, we go one step forward, more than 3 characters, like .global or .desi or .online. Uh, are those being accepted? Then we further go into the IDN domain names, like .bharat. Is an email address on .bharat accepted or not? A lot of results did come out, and those results have a various acceptance rate right now. Now, in all honesty, the new GTLDs have about an acceptance rate of above 90%. Uh, when you're talking about the Latin script, that is the English script, when the TLD is in there, above 90%. But it drastically drops when an IDN comes into the picture. As far as acceptance rate is concerned, it drops down to around between 35 to 40%. All right, those same features won't work for those. So it shows that there is a lot of gap still to be covered. If this is basically indicative of how much effort is now required as far as filling those gaps are concerned. But hopefully, it will give you a decent idea on how UA ready we are or how ready we can be. All right. A good start ideally would be that if there are local, state or center level government and those government websites are there, I think it's a good start that we can start over there and try to get them UA compliant, because those are directly impacting the lives of all citizens, and it will be more engaging to get them on board and be able to use that. So I think that could be a good start. But all in all, it's a very indicative study, but you guys can free to go to usg.tech and check out those reports. Especially the 2020 report published by UASG. It's an amazing report, and I encourage everybody to go ahead and check.
Yeah, thank you, Aman, and I completely endorse that point. That report which has come out in 2020 is a really good material. Please request everybody to go through it. There's lots of resources which has gone and it's truly come out well. So please feel free whenever you have time to go through that report. And thank you, Aman, for sharing your thoughts in this subject based on the acceptability and then talking about the various percentage. And of course, we all realize that a lot needs to be done, and there are steps which needs to be taken in, and we are working in the direction. So yeah, there are things which can be done. Over to you, Riji, if you want to add anything to it, that how much do you think we are UA ready, the internet? That's a question from the audience.
Thanks, Sarika ji, and it's a very important question and very important research question for the academia. So they could, I have provided some technical details that how to, make some system UA ready and how to find that some system is UA ready by using this SMTP UTF-8 flag. So let's say we may take first 10,000 website important websites in India, and then we may test them by use some code and upload it on GitHub. I'm just giving one of the practical suggestion. Depending upon that, we may find out that how much percentage of internet UA ready in India, which is kind of a subset of total websites internet. And we may publish these results through the research papers, and with the help of UASG, ICANN, and important suggestions and the platform of FICCI and the whole support, this academia come up with very wonderful and thought-provoking results that that how much we are UA ready. So this is just a suggestion, but still there is a huge gap. If I'll say that we should be like 93% is kind of remaining after the report of USG. So this is my suggestion.
Okay, thank you, Rishi. So I'm sure you suggested a way out. Aman has pointed out the difference, and there's a huge that needs to be done. That's a takeaway, which I can get it from the reply. So yes, audience, that's an answer for you. The next question is, does UA readiness provide security benefits to our websites and applications? So maybe we can ask you, Harishi, first to start, and then I can go to Aman, and if anybody else wants to add anything to it. So over to you, Mr. Chaudhary. Any replies on this?
So
So basically, they're checking out, is there any security benefits we get if we make our websites UA compliant?
So there are two parts of it. First thing is that when you are, implementing in your kind of local language, that means the number of users are kind of specific to those language, and then they will give them a sense of trust in the, I mean, in terms of their languages. But as far as security is concerned, people are really innovative, and we have to also provide kind of solution around it for the domain IDNs and email address internationalization. So again, this is a this concept is, I'm not saying new, but it is kind of now a good history. So basically we come up with some solutions, but as far as I know, a lot of solutions are available, and you can go through them, and these are available publicly. ICANN has also published rules around it, that for these rules are known as label generation rule set, that what code points are can be allocated, what code points cannot be allocated, what could be blocked. So this provides a certain level of security. But yes, because for the ASCII based solutions, there is also security issues. So we have to see that the security is kind of issue, and it come up with every technical solution. So this is kind of my suggestion, or kind of my viewpoint only.
Thank you. Aman, anything from your side?
It's I think it rolls down to opportunity actually. I'm thinking from a normal. I'll just think from a basic anti-spam solution perspective. All right, let's just take that as an example right now. most of the anti-spam solutions today have evolved into context analysis. Basically, when you compose an email address, when you're sending an email address, they look at the content and they start to analyze whether this is a potential threat, phishing, malware, spear phishing, or all. Similarly, basically, when email servers become UA ready, they need to have those protocols also boost up to make sure that the anti-spam solutions that you have are also working as effectively as it was for an English based one. You don't want to have a solution that will potentially blanket block something that it does not recognize, which is not in English. Or it just gives more opportunity for developers and people who are invested in UA related projects or skills to go ahead and give that custom solution to ensure a smooth transition for the new wave of users that we keep on talking about who are experiencing local languages to come up to the system in a secured and more effective manner. So anti-spam is one thing that I can think of. From a web perspective, yes, your validations are going to change. You'll be more accepting about around certain validations and all. But when you're storing data in your server, you need to ensure that you have protocols and procedures in place that don't basically corrupt or poison your database. All right, because some of the databases that are there, if they don't identify the kind of characters and how they are being stored in, they might just recognize it as a threat. All right, so from security perspective, it does not add a direct value, but it creates opportunities for other people in the security field to add value to your initiative that you're taking. All right, which means more jobs, which means more learning, which means more opportunity. And this is how we need to think right now. All right, this is precisely how we need to think, that if we are looking for a particular solution, hey, what are the other things that we would require, and are there people out there who can basically help us out in that? So I think it's just it's a good seed, it's a good thought, but when you think about the solution, it's a field of opportunities. And if there's a budding entrepreneur out there who wants to capitalize on that, you can actually think about it. And it's a vast field out there.
सारिका
Thank
जी,
you,
आई
ma'am.
वांट टू ऐड लिटिल बिट, थोड़ा देसी इसमें, मोर देन द ग्लोबल अपॉर्चुनिटी.
Sure, sir.
Desi thing is for our what I mean this is to easily understandable and for very close to our heart. अगर अपन देखें जितने ये एंटी स्पैमर्स हैं, स्पैमर्स, उनको हिंदी की ईमेल समझ में नहीं आती है, तो आपका ईमेल आईडी जो है वो सेफ रहेगा. उनके पास में अभी स्पैम भेजने के लिए जो उनकी मशीनरी है वो भी तैयार नहीं है. उनके पास में उनको फिल्टर करने का तरीका नहीं है. उनको ये भी नहीं पता है कि ये ईमेल आईडीज जो हैं कैसे काम करते हैं, बिकॉज देयर इकोसिस्टम इज नॉट रेडी टू स्पैम बिकॉज देयर इज नॉट एनफ मार्केट. So you are going to have some years of leverage to enjoy that benefit that email addresses on languages are spam free. That's one huge benefit you will get. Second benefit is it is very regional sensitive. उसका फायदा ये मिलता है आपको, जैसे आपको आज तक आपने कोई चाइनीज वेबसाइट किसी ने नहीं देखी होगी, देखी नहीं है. आपने कोई स्पेनिश वेबसाइट देखी नहीं होगी आपको, तो आप यू आर अवे फ्रॉम दो हंटिंग आईज ऑन यू. यू मे बी डूइंग $1 billion बिजनेस बट यू आर अवे फ्रॉम द वर्ल्ड. सो यू आर इन अ सेफ हेवन if you see from that point of view. Third thing is, I believe truly, अगर आप इंटरनेट इन टुडेज फॉर्म सिक्योर मानते हैं, सेफ मानते हैं, तो मैं ऐसा मानता हूं उससे कहीं ना कहीं ज्यादा सिक्योरिटी और सेफ्टी आपको इस लिंग्विस्टिक इंटरनेट में मिलेगी. इसको अगर अपन अम्ब्रेला मान लें, तो हमारे जो एम्बेसडर्स हैं उन्होंने बहुत अच्छा एक्सप्लेन किया है दोनों चीजों को, द मेरिट्स ऑफ दिस लिंग्विस्टिक इंटरनेट. बट आई थिंक दैट अम्ब्रेला हैज टू बी अंडरस्टूड, दैट इंटरनेट इज in a shape or a fashion what it is today and designed that way. Definitely you are moving towards a more secured and more usable internet, more powerful internet in a language word. Because जब ये language internet design हो रहा है तो वो सारी कमियां दूर करके डिजाइन हो रहा है. Let me tell you one another example. आज आप google.com को रजिस्टर कर सकते हैं टेक्निकली with 00 instead of 00 in Google, because .com में mixed scripts allowed थी. Here now in a linguistic in .bharat you can't register कि मैं आ की मात्रा की जगह आई लगा दूं या एल लगा दूं या एक लगा दूं, आप नहीं कर पाएंगे. तो एक सेंस ऑफ सिक्योरिटी ऑलरेडी आपकी आ गई है वहां पर, क्योंकि वो जो कमियां छोड़ी गई हैं शुरू में उन कमियों को दुरुस्त कर लिया गया है. दे हैव बीन रेक्टिफाइड, दे आर नाउ the holes have been plugged basically. That's what I wanted to say. I think this should answer many queries. Thank you.
Thank you. A very nice perspective across the spectrum of speakers, I would say, starting with Harishji talking about the security angle, the availability solutions, to Aman mentioning about the opportunity for the solution providers, and then, of course, talking about that it's an avenue for the new job creation, and of course, Dr. Dekta mentioning about highly secure internet for you. That's something which you can think about it when you get a truly lingual internet, which we all agree, because we all know that as we need to groom ourselves, even hackers need to. So they would take time. So it's the time for you all to take the benefit of this and be safe and do conduct your actually take the benefits of being connected and reaching to masses. So thank you, Dr. Data. There are many questions, but I'll restrict now to 2 more questions, because then otherwise we are already over time. But I'll take these 2 questions because again, they are very prominent from the Academy of Fraternity which they've given. They're asking, is there any specific course or module we can do to get the technical background of UA? So maybe Dr. Data, you would like to start, and then I can ask Mr. Gupta to add on to it.
Yeah. There are training sessions happen on UA. They are announced on discuss list, and of course, Sarika, we can also announce in our mailing list when if people are subscribed to, and we can. There are a lot of training sessions happen organized by UA. Our ambassadors also do that sessions, and they are happening regular basis. We announce them. There is a lot of content available to understand UA on uasg.tech document section. There is a specific document to understand what UA is all about, and then you can go as deeper as you want. If you are a programmer, there's a different document. If you're an academia, there's a different document. If you're a CIO, there's a different document. So which section you represent, you can get that document as required. There is no problem in that. And of course, keep an eye on training sessions, which UA keep announcing. And of course, I think we in FICCI also announce them locally. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Data. Mr. Gupta, you want to add on anything to it?
Not really, because Dr. Data has actually given all the resources. I think the best place, as Dr. Data has rightly said, is to go to the usg.tech website and perhaps even join the mailing list. And then there are enough people in India amongst, apart from Aman and Harish, who are also involved, and get to know this community who is working on it. And then all the training opportunities that come up will be made available very easily.
Thank you. So thank you, Dr. Data and Mr. Gupta, for this answer. For the audience, like it has been mentioned by the speakers, there are various players which are working in this domain, and we would in any case keep on doing those activities. You can definitely be part of the mailing list for both for the local thing the community which we have created, and say even contribute there. You'll get to know about the various I would say the technical workshops, general awareness workshops, which are the things which we keep on doing with the support of our members, the USG ambassadors, any special announcements which we keep on making it. So all those benefits you can take to it. And if there's something else you want us to take it forward in this direction, please write to us. We will be happy to take it in discussion with the USG leadership in future. The another question is, any special support available both for hand-holding and financial for startups or students for making their websites or projects UA compliant? So, okay,
I
so
think,
everything ends on money. So maybe Dr. Data, you start that answer.
yeah. And I think there is nothing wrong in that because money is a big driver, and we understand that in UA. We do not really fund for somebody to make his app UA compliant, but we are certainly very happy to provide all the technical resource and know-how and ways forward. But let me give you an opportunity here. Sarikaji, if you remember, you yourself sent an email few days before about statement of works on the mailing list, right? It's a business opportunity. It's a business opportunity for each startup to understand. So the good idea would be, if I am interested in UA, to look for those opportunities and bid for them. Then you are getting paid for knowledge, so for your research, and deliver the outcome to the public community, which UASG will do. This is a good idea to address those statement of works where thousands of dollars are projects are given to the people who are interested to work on a new subject. It's a new subject, right? There is no experience of 15-10 years which is coming on the table and then you are delivering. Anybody who is interested and understands a little bit about the nuances of it is welcome to do so. So, but let me open an opportunity, though we are and getting into the elections, Harika, again for the new leadership. So I'm not committing what's going to happen next 2 years. But what I'm saying is that UA is by large very open for innovative ideas and projects. And of course, these projects can be also taken up by local initiatives, Harika ji. And here, if somebody is very keen and interested that which is going to be a path breaking for UA initiatives, these kind of proposals can be also considered here in local initiative, and we can then just take up to the global leadership and deal with them. So I am saying there is no straightforward yes here, but there is no straightforward either, and there is an opportunity for you to address this, and there is a possibility for funding.
Thank you, Dr. Data. Anybody who wish to add anything, Mr. Gupta? Do you want to add anything to it? Yeah, okay. Any of the other speakers on the funding part? Dr. Data has given. Yeah.
We wouldn't dare speak after Dr. Data's elaborate explanation. All right. I think he's covered it nicely over there.
So that's why we requested him only to answer it in the first go. Okay, so I'm assuming that then audience, in the interest of the time and the what best justice we can do in the time available, we have tried to answer as many questions, but the depth of the questions really shows that the interest from you also. Thank you. We really acknowledge your presence and the deep involvement in the subject during the discussion that actually encourages all of us, the organizers and the presenters, to be part of the future discussion in series as well. And like I mentioned in the starting, we'll keep on coming back to you with these kind of tech talks in a different manner and different fashion in a different coverage of scope. So thank you all. Thank you all the presenters, starting with Dr. Data, Mr. Samiran Gupta, Mr. Aman Masjid, and Mr. Harish Chaudhary for being with us, for sparing your time. We took up Saturday because we wanted the academia fraternity to be totally involved with us, and that was the time we were realistically getting from their side. So thank you all. With this note, we like to end up today's discussion, and we promise to get back to you soon again. And please stay connected. Please join the revolution with us, and if you have questions, please write back to us. We'll get back to you. Thank you. With this, I end.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.